You are welcome to the Messiah channel, an end-time prophetic ministry dedicated to end-time events. And today we are focusing on coming out of Babylon. And I believe coming out of Babylon means moving away from the sins that are committed by Babylon. In the end times, Babylon will lead the world in rebellion against God. Homosexuality is a rebellion against God, and any nation promoting that act is rebelling against God. In 2015, the Supreme Court of the United States, they made a decision. It's constitutional for a man to marry a man and a woman to marry a woman. And since that decision, the United States has attempted to spread homosexuality all over the world, and they lift the LGBT flag alongside the American flag all over the world. It's a psychological warfare, but it is also a spiritual warfare. And Africa has been a battleground of the spiritual warfare, a battleground for the forces of God and the forces of Lucifer. And so it is my pleasure to announce that on February 28, 2024, Ghana passed an anti-LGBT law unanimously by the Parliament of Ghana. And what remains is for the President of Ghana to sign the bill into law. And it's an example of people, nations coming out of Babylon so that they will not partake of the sins of Babylon and suffer the plagues that will be inflicted on Babylon by the one who created the universe. I am that I am is his name. The Ancient of Days is his name. The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He's greater than constitutions. He's not elected. He's not selected. He has no beginning. He has no end. His laws are supreme. And so Ghana responded to the call of the angel in Revelation 18 verse 4 to come out of Babylon. They came out of Babylon. Ghana came out of Babylon. The men and women in the Parliament of Ghana came out of Babylon because the diplomatic pressure on Ghana to promote homosexuality was high. American President Joe Biden sent his Vice President Kamala Harris to Ghana to lobby against the passing of the bill by making comments about so-called human rights and LGBTQ plus rights. The movement to pass a bill against homosexuality in Ghana began in 2021, and for 3 years it went through a lot of resistance from within Ghana and mostly from and outside Ghana, because there are people who, responding to their mission to spread homosexuality over the world, they are funding, supporting, and promoting homosexuality over the world, and particularly in Africa, and particularly in Black Africa. As we are aware, the American government is not promoting homosexuality in Muslim countries, even when you come to the continent of Africa. But they found it convenient for their own evil agenda to promote homosexuality in Black nations. And it has a spiritual implication. The implication is that it is their mission to sodomize Black Africa and incur the wrath of God. In other words, they want to bring Black Africa within the zone of rebellion against God. They are interested in homosexuality in Black Africa. They are interested in homosexuality in Ghana, in Nigeria, and in Uganda and other parts of Black Africa. But February 28, 2024 came a day when the Parliament of Ghana passed a law against homosexuality, against sodomy. And the law is about proper sexual relations. The title, Proper Sexual Relations and Ghanaian Family Value Bill. Is there anything like proper sexual relations? Yes, the Old Testament talks about it, and the New Testament also talks about proper sexual relations. The laws of God, they are in Leviticus, they are in Deuteronomy, they are all in the Bible, both Old and New. And it's against the laws of God to promote homosexuality. And so the Apostle Peter even used Sodom and Gomorrah in his preaching. And he said that Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed and they were set aside as an example for nations that will engage in the acts which caused the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah by brimstone and fire. But Babylon, America, the leader of the rebellion against God, is promoting homosexuality, has promoted homosexuality, and has tried to use all means necessary to ensure that homosexuality prevails in Africa and other parts of the world. But the African nations are protecting their values. And so the bill that was passed by, and the bill that was introduced in Ghana is called Proper Sexual Relations and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. It's a hypocrisy for the nation that supposedly believe in family values to turn around and promote policies and practices that run contrary to family values, particularly family values among so-called civilized nations, And so it's proper to change your sex. It's proper to have sex with your brother and your mother. It's part of their family value of a civilized nation. But on February 28, 2024, the Parliament of Ghana, they promoted a Ghanaian family value, an African family value that is anchored on the respect of God. And they remember what the Lord did in Sodom and Gomorrah. And so they have to come out of Babylon and resist all the pressure coming from Babylon, political, economic, diplomatic pressure mounted by Babylon, America. So they passed the law. The president had to sign it. And the question is whether the president of Ghana will sign it. The whole world will be looking at him. The bill was passed unanimously by the Parliament of Ghana. And so if one person decides that he will not sign the bill, he's the president, then the wrath of God will come upon him and his generation forever and ever. And I don't think the president will refuse to assent to the bill. Yeah, because the whole world know that homosexuality is a sin. And even though there are a group of nations who believe that it is not a sin, and because they don't believe in the Bible, they are not Christians. And I also want to say that it is not everybody in Babylon, America, who supports homosexuality. And so, indirectly and directly, there were churches in America who were supporting the Africans who are resisting the pressure from Washington to accept homosexuality. And after all, in the United States, churches are organized and they have to obey the laws of the state. They are organized as corporations, 501c, the Internal Revenue Code, and that prohibits what they can do on the pulpit, what they can say on the pulpit. And so they were watching and praying, and they, I believe, are happy that Ghana, following the examples of other nations in the world, on the African continent, Nigeria, Uganda particularly, has decided to criminalize LGBT activities. And it was not easy. It was a spiritual battle. First of all, outside forces, they sponsored changes in Ghana's educational curriculum, and syllables were prepared and to promote what they call comprehensive sexuality education. And that meant that the children in primary schools, they have to be taught about homosexuality, LGBT activities, under the guise of comprehensive sexuality education. The people of Ghana resisted, and so that syllabus did not come to fruition. They went through the back door because it's easy to bribe an African leader if you want to dump toxic waste on the African continent. The leader will accept it and will allow you to dump toxic waste on the continent. After all, some leaders in Africa accepted money so that toxic waste could be dumped on the coast of Africa. Homosexuality is toxic. Homosexuality is toxic. It's toxic waste. And some African leaders, even though they like money, they said no. We will accept toxic waste, but we will not accept homosexuality. And so they are resisting, and they resisted. Uganda resisted Babylon's diplomatic pressure. Nigeria resisted, and now Ghana has resisted. It was not only a political battle, it was a spiritual battle. the battle between God and Lucifer, the battle between the angels of God and the agents of Lucifer. Some of them are presidents of nations, and some of them are leaders of corporations. They are those who call themselves the elites, the global elites, in the business of doing the bidding for Satan, including rebelling against God, which comes in the form of human rights. And so you can have sex with a dog as part of human rights. You can change your sex. You can have as many as 30 genders, even though the Bible knows about a man and a woman. It's part of human rights. It is a spiritual battle because we are in the last days. And I'm drawing your attention to Ghana. In 2018, there was a prophetic conference, and an information came to me that two major Ghanaian men were going to die, and they were going to die because they supported homosexuality. And they are going to die because they are part of the people who want homosexuality to enter Ghana. That was July 2018. And by the end of the year, and those people died. They died, and including a Ghanaian who was a Secretary General of the United Nations. He used to be a Secretary General of the United Nations. He died as predicted. He died before the close of 2018 because the prophecy said that some big men were going to die. God was going to take them out because they were behind the scene. They were behind the efforts to bring homosexuality to Ghana. I also read that, not that I read, I was told during a prophetic conference that a former vice president of Ghana who died in 2018, he died 7 days when some Christian groups fasted and prayed for the sponsors of homosexuality in Ghana to die. And they were fasting for 7 days, and I believe the man died during the third day of fasting. A former vice president of Ghana dying because of the fact that he was supporting homosexuality behind the scenes. And before February 28, 2024, something also happened. The leading lawyer who were challenging the bill in Parliament, a lawyer who once represented the president of the country, a human rights lawyer, an advocate of human rights, he died. He was sent to South Africa and he did not survive, and so he died. The law has been passed. The anti-LGBT law has been passed. The president will have to sign it so that it will come into law. There were people, professors, lawyers, politicians who were against the law being passed. And I'm sure that if they collected money from outside sources, gay groups all over the world, I'm sure probably they'll have to go and pay the money back to them. Whatever bribe that they paid did not succeed in subverting the will of God. Zephaniah 1:18 says that neither their silver nor gold will save them. And so whatever money outside governments or diplomatic missions paid to parliamentarians in Ghana to lobby against the passing of anti-LGBT bill, whatever money they paid came to naught because the bill was passed unanimously by the Parliament of Ghana February 28, 2024. And so let me do a few commentary on the main key points of the bill. The Proper Sexual Relations and Ghanaian Family Value Bill of 2021, famously known as the anti-LGBTQ plus law in Ghana. If the law is finally signed by the president, it means that several categories of activities will be criminalized and they will be penalized. Activity number one are those who identify as LGBT, those who engage in activities of homosexuality, gay, lesbianism. The minimum punishment is 6 months and the maximum is 3 years. And those who propagate LGBT to children, those who target children for indoctrination, and their punishment is different. The minimum is 5 years and the maximum is 10 years. As we are aware, LGBT groups all over the world, they are trooping to Africa to destroy the children of Africa by introducing them to pagan practices, to introduce them to practices that offend the culture and the sensitivity of the African people. And if you propagate any homosexual activity to children, and if you are convicted, if you are found guilty, minimum sentence 5 years, maximum sentence is 10 years. And for those who fund LGBT activities, you give them money, you give them support, you propagate for them, you go and establish an NGO, and you use the NGO as a camouflage, as just a backdoor to promote homosexuality in Ghana. The minimum sentence is 5 years and the maximum is 10 years. And the law is very liberal in some respects, and I want to comment on that. If you see anybody in Ghana engaging in homosexuality, you have an obligation to report the person to the police. You cannot take the law into your own hands. Previously, you see a situation where somebody is caught in engaging in homosexual acts, and people will take the law into their hands. They will beat the person, and if care is not taken, the person can be killed. And the law takes measures to prevent extrajudicial activities. And so if you engage in any activity, unlawful activity against somebody who is accused of being a homosexual, gay, LGBT, if you take the law into your hands, you also will be punished, and the minimum is 6 months and the maximum is 3 years. And they hope that this provision of the law will prevent people from taking the laws into their hands as they deal with the menace and the criminal acts of homosexuality. And we hope that other people will come out of Babylon, other nations will come out of Babylon. They will not partake of the sins of Babylon, so that the place that the Lord will pour on Babylon, they will escape that. And Africa is now awakening herself from cultural imperialism, and the attempts, historic attempts by the Western powers to dump toxic waste on the continent, and homosexuality is a spiritual toxic waste because it is the activity that resulted in God destroying the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And so if you're a president or a vice president and you go to an African country, a black country for that matter, and you want them to engage in homosexuality, you are exporting spiritual toxic waste. And for those who have the intention of going to Gambia or Ghana or Uganda, you need to be aware that those nations, they don't accept homosexuality, and they are very aggressive in protecting their culture against sodomy. Their children will not be sodomized. Their children will not go on the road of Sodom as the children in America are on the road of Sodom. And so you need to be aware. For those who are in the diaspora, black diaspora, who are interested in going to Africa, you need to be warned that anti-LGBT laws are being passed. And I read in the case of Nigeria, what is the deal? In Nigeria, the sentence is very harsh, 14 years in some cases. You can be jailed for 10 years or more. Nigeria is a Muslim country. In the same way, in Ghana, we have large Muslim community. We also have Christian community. But even if there's no Muslim community or Christian community, the African traditional culture is very conservative. Very conservative. They are proud of their history. There was a university in Timbuktu when there was no university in Europe. Civilization occurred on the African continent. The Egyptian civilization that occurred, it was civilization that was engineered by black people, black men, women. They are very proud of their culture, and they don't want their culture to be destroyed by pagan culture and any culture coming from heathen nations. And so Ghana, on February 28, 2024, came out of Babylon, resisted pressure from Babylon, United States, and passed a bill, Proper Sexual Relations and Ghanaian Family Value Bill. Proper Sexual Relations and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. Popularly known as the anti-LGBTQ plus bill. Come out of here, my people, so that you do not receive the plagues that the Lord is going to inflict on Babylon. Thank you for watching this video.